Hi friends, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting, and in today's video I want to talk about what you need to do and show you what you need to do if you want to use a non-FPP compatible controller in a show where you're running FPP. So let's talk about this, because that can sound a little weighty, but it's really not, and I apologize if the glare's crazy on me. The sun is bright this morning. So, picture this. You've got a show that runs either an FPP device wired with a Raspberry Pi in your, wired into your network, or sitting out there on wireless, plugged into a controller. Or you've got a Falcon based controller, that V4 or newer, that has a FPP compatible show player built in. Or you're running FPP on a Culp or another brand of FPP based controller, like Kurt, xLights, Hanson, whatever. There's a bunch of them now. And you want to connect into your system a controller that does not have a compatible show player. So if you're familiar with FPP with these show players, you can basically connect them all, wireless or wired, on your network, hit play on one of them. The show file, the content, is stored on every player, and they all sync around and are able to run often wirelessly without a hitch. Okay, and that works really great. Okay, but what happens if you have a controller that doesn't have that built in, right? It's not gonna work, okay? So how do you get around that? Now, examples of these controllers might be the Hinkspix from Holiday Coral. They have a show player, but it's a different show player, and from everything I know, it's not compatible with FPP. It doesn't use the FPP uploader. It's kind of its own thing, right? There are older Falcon controllers, right? I've got one sitting over there, right there. I use it as pretty much the main controller in my show. And it's a perfectly fine controller. It's just older, so it doesn't have that capability. Okay, you might have like the Genius or the Matos Designs Dragon. There should be a show player coming to it here in 2023, but it's not there yet, right? And hopefully by the time I put this out, I think by this season they'll have it. But let's just say you didn't update yours, right? It doesn't have a show player. What do we do? This is where something called Proxy comes in really well a lot of the time. Okay, so the basic gist of it is that any FPP-based device can actually send out data to other controllers. Okay, now what you need to make this work is you need an FPP device that is either sitting on a network, plugged into a network where you've got the FPP device plugged in and you've got this other controller plugged in, or more commonly, you have the FPP device wirelessly connected to your network. Okay, and I've got one set up here. We're going to walk through it. Then you use the network port on that FPP device, if it has one, if it's a BeagleBone Black based, or if it's a Raspberry Pi based controller that has the ability to go wireless and also has an Ethernet plug. Then you can connect that Ethernet plug, that Ethernet wire, directly to that other controller, and that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so an example is always the best thing, right? So I've got connected here in this setup, I've got my FPP device. It is on, right now it is both on my wireless at this IP address, 192.168.0.224, and it is wired as well into this home network here at my office, okay? Then I've got the Hinkspix controller. It is set to 192.168.0.107. Okay, now the first thing to know, and this trips people up a lot, is when you are proxying, when you have data coming in one and out another network interface, it's best, and you really don't want to have them in the same IP address range. I don't think you can even do it, but we'll test it. Because everything's a test, right? You didn't used to be able to do it. Okay, like if I go to proxy settings, let's see if it lets us. It didn't used to let you do that, but maybe it does now. We'll see. And so, because there is a checkbox somewhere now, I'm just going off the rails here about allowing information to go between. That shouldn't matter, though. Anywho, I'm getting off track. Okay. Never mind that. So, we've got everything set up. We've got it all on our network. In theory, we shouldn't be able to have these both in the same IP address range, but let's give it a try. Okay, so more often than not, I recommend going and setting, wireless. Sure, have that in your standard 192.168.0 IP address range. Have your wired, set all those up in the, say, 192.168.1 IP address range. That just makes it so that traffic flows through things better. It should be required, but we're going to see here if it works without it. So what I'm going to do is go over there and I'm going to unplug the Hinkspix from my home network, unplug the Pi from my home network, and so now the Raspberry Pi, which could be a Culp controller, it could be a Pi-based controller, is now going to be wireless on my home network, which it is right now, and at 192.168.0.224, okay? And we're going to just copy that real quick in case we need to get to it. And then I'm going to plug in the network between the Hinkspix and this one, completely just a short cable between the two. Say they're right next to each other, okay? And then we'll walk through the configuration. All right, so we've now taken this guy, we've disconnected it from our wired network. So if we refresh it here, we can't get to it, but if we then go to 192.168.0.225, it was 225, right? Oh, it was 224. We should be able to get to it. And it will also show up in xLights, and then our Hinkspix is at 107. We cannot get to it, okay? So just as a recap, now we're going to go here to xLights. Now, what I want to do here basically is go ahead and just delete all my controllers out of xLights for fun and hit Discover, okay? Now, with it only on my wireless network, I can hit No there. With it only on my wireless and not on my wired, I see here that I get FPP test at 192.168.0.224. Okay, I'm going to delete the rest of these. These are all testing or other devices or other controllers. And so now this is the only controller I have right now is 192.168.0.224, which we should be able to get to, but of course it's not working right now because that's what happens when you go film a video. But it says it's there. It says it's sort of online. I'm going to actually give it a quick restart just because maybe it didn't like when I unplugged it from its wire. All right, so that guy's restarting. So now here's the configuration side. So we're going to go ahead and add a new controller, since in this case it's a Hinkspix, which is not going to show up automatically. Either way, in Discover mode, it shouldn't show up automatically if it's through another controller, basically, to connect on there. All right, so go ahead and add an Ethernet-based controller. Going to be a Hinkspix. In this case, where is it? There it is. And then here is where we enter the FPP proxy IP or host name. I like to go with the IP address. I feel like it's a little more reliable. I don't know. And so that's 192.168.0.224. All right, so we've got that setting saved. And then we set this IP address, which is that 107. Okay. So then what we should see, see it came up that time. Then what we have to do, and I believe you have to do this manually, but we'll try it real quick, is I'm just going to go super quick. And yeah, I don't have an upload output because this isn't actually a controller. And so I think what I need to do here is just go in manually. If this was a controller, I should be able to upload my output and it should upload automatically. But we can go ahead and do it manually as well. So we'll just go to proxy settings, hit add 192.168.0.107, save, and we're going to see if it works in this IP address range. So we save that. I know it does have to restart, I believe, the FPPD in order for that to work. And yes, my guess is that this is not working because we're in the same IP address range. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to change my IP addresses, and then go ahead and update this, and I bet it'll work for us. All right, yes. So as I had surmised, the issue, I believe, was that I was using the same IP address range. So now, basically, the way it looks is the xLights configuration shows that my Hinkspix, my non-FPP based controller, is set up to have the FPP proxy of an FPP controller. And actually, I need to change my IP address here. Then, in my proxy settings, and those should upload when you upload output. In my proxy settings, then, status and control, proxy settings, I have set up a line for the IP address of the Hinkspix controller. Then the Hinkspix controller is connected directly to the network port of the FPP device. So the FPP device is wireless on my network that this computer's on right now. Say I would have xLights running on this computer. It's connected wirelessly. Then the wire is set with a manual static IP address, so on my network settings here, that is in the range of the Hinkspix. So 192.168.1.1 is in the range of the Hinkspix, which right now is sitting at, it's 192.168.1.107. Then I'm able to go and click on this proxy page right here on the link, which takes me to that Hinkspix controller through the FPP device. Okay, and then I can go in here and it should work. For some reason, the network settings page wasn't coming up. It can be a little laggy, like I'm a little bit away from my wireless network here. But for running a show, it should work great, because basically now the FPP device, as usual, is storing the file. Okay, it's storing the file that plays back the information. Then on your output setup, what will happen once you set up your show and have models on it and upload with FPP Connect and check the box that says UDP out proxy to actually select the dropdown, then it will enable the output here to that other controller. Okay, so the data will flow wired between the two, meaning it'll be nice and fast, it'll be ready to rock and roll, it'll be good, and you'll be off to the races. Now, I realize that can sound complicated. It can be. But once you do get it set up once, you literally never have to touch it again. It'll just continue working as long as you don't change anything else with your IP addressing, your general setup and whatnot. So this can be a really great way to add in those controllers to your show that don't have a show player built in that's compatible with FPP when you've transitioned to a show that is running via FPP. Excuse me. I hope that helps you guys so much. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. And if you need stuff for your Christmas light show, you need pixels, you need controllers, you need moving heads. Of course, everybody needs moving heads. Head over to LortonChristmasLightingStore.com. We've got everything. We've got the pixels, we've got the moving heads, we've got all the stuff, and we would love to help you get the things you need to make your display rock. We'll see you guys in our next video. Check out all the links below or at the end. Thanks.